Hello everyone, my name is Ahmed. Let me be straightforward and ask this question to you all. If you had chance to move another country permanent, would you do it? What if it meant leaving your family behind? Today we will be vlogging about the immigrant, the immigrant. So immigrant means a person who comes to live permanent in a foreign country. Why do people migrate? Here are a few main reasons why people migrate: to escape past or future persistence based on race, religion, nationality, and or membership in a particular social group or political opinion. Number 2, to escape conflict or violence. Number 3, to find refuge after being displaced due to environmental factors. 4. To escape poverty. 5. To offer more opportunities to children.
Hello everyone, my name is Jedrick Khan, and I will be continuing on our topic of the Holocaust in World War II. So I will be reading about the concentration camps, the experiments, and the stigma suffered by the Jews in Germany and other parts of Europe. So the word Holocaust from the Greek words holos means whole, and kautos, which means burned, was historically used to describe a sacrificial offering burnt on an altar. Since 1945, the word has taken on a new and horrible meaning. The ideological and systematic state sponsored persecution and mass murder of millions of European Jews, as well as millions of others, including Romani people, the intellectually disabled, the descendants, and homosexuals by the German Nazi regime between 1933 and 1945. To the anti-Semitic Nazi leader is Adolf Hitler. So Jews were an inferior race, an alien threat to German racial purity and community. Uh, After years of Nazi rule in Germany, during which Jews were consistently persecuted, Hitler's final solution, known as the Holocaust, came to fusion under the cover of World War II, with mass killings centers constructed in the concentration camps of preoccupied Poland. So, approximately 6 million Jews and some 5 million other targets for racial, political, ideological, and behavioral reasons died in the Holocaust. More than 1 million of those who perished were children. Concentration camps were established as early as 1933 under the Protective Custody Law passed on February 28, 1933. This law allowed the police to make arrests based on the suspicion of criminal activity and interred without a trial or legal representation. The first camp would be created at Dachau near Munich that year, being followed by the Buchenwald near Berlin in the north. A number of additional camps would be created between 1934 and 1941, consisting of communists, Democrats, socialists, political criminals, homosexuals, and Jews. So, as a result, at least 7,000 camp inmates were subjected to medical experiments. Most of them died during or as a result. The experiments involved the sterilization of men and women, treated of war wounds, ways to counteract chemical weapons, and research into new vaccine and drugs, and survival of harsh conditions. So now let us look about the amazing adventures of Cavalier and Clay, the famous novel. So here's a quick summary of the famous novel of the amazing adventures of Cavalier and Clay. For those who do not know, it will be divided into 6 parts. So, part 1, the escape artist. This section recounts Joseph Cavalier's apprenticeship as a magician and escapist under the tutelage of Bernard Kornblum, and how Joe and his brother Thomas almost drowned in the river Muldau during a failed experiment. Kornblum belongs to a secret circle which has guarded the golem of Prague since the 16th century. To prevent its confiscation by the Nazis, the golem is disguised as a human corpse and shipped out of Czechoslovakia. Joe is smuggled out inside the same coffin. I'm sorry about my pronunciations. The names are very hard. So we have part 2, which is a couple of boy geniuses. So we have Sammy Clayman introduces his refugee cousin Joe to poems and comic books, and discovers that Joe has a considerable talent as an artist. By the way, this novel is actually a comic. There is actually a comic version. So the two enlist a team of out of work artists and begin their venture publishing comic books. Part 3, The Funny Book War. Cavalier and Clay's catalog of successful comic book title grows, while Joe is unsuccessful obtaining visas for his family, still in Czechoslovakia. In disguise of his fictional creation, The Escapist, Joe goes to battle against Carl Ebling, president of the New York chapter of the Aryan American League. The two cousins met and befriended Rosa Sachs. Part 4, The Golden Age. As Cavalier and Clay hit the pinnacle of their success, the two cousins each have romantic liaisons. As the World Fair commences in Queens and a world war rages in Europe, the two cousins enter Salvador Dali and Orson Welles. Joe takes the stage as magician in an act billed as the Amazing Cavalieri. This section ends with the shame of Sammy and the tragedy of Joe. Part 5, Radio Man. Another series of escapes by Joe Cavalier. He runs from tragedy by joining the Navy as a radio man second class, set in Antarctica where he is stationed at a naval base. Joe survives the war against all odds. And part 6 is the League of the Golden Key. So let's set 10 years after the events of the previous section. Sammy and Rosa and Tommy are living in Bloomtown, New York, an idealized planned suburb modeled after Levittown, New York. Meanwhile, as the Senate subcommittee on juvenile delinquency is mounting its fight against the comic book industry, Joe Cavalier makes a mysterious reappearance after he escapes the naval base. So, Joe had secretly returned to New York where he has holed himself up in an office in the Empire State Building, putting finishing touches on the mammoth graphic novel about the golem. Tommy meets Joe at a magic shop, and Sammy is subpoenaed to testify before the Senate subcommittee. That's all for my topic. Sorry if I was not able to read the whole novel, it's a bit too long. Thank you.
faith and my trust in people. We must remember it with a strong commitment, with a strong resolution that we will do what we can to actually to counteract any form of racism, any form of anti-Semitism. Nothing like that is acceptable.
After reading the interviews of the survivors of the Holocaust and World War II, it gave me a bigger picture of how tragic and devastating it was in that era. The horrors, the pain, and suffering of the people. I learned of how truly lucky I am to be living today and not in the past. The experiences they have struggled and how depressing what they have been through. I learned to value my time as I am alive in a safe environment. One of the people that got interviewed said, "It shows an immense amount of racism because us as Americans should have stuck together as a country. We could have had a better chance at winning the war sooner if we had tactics and more men, but instead, they were at work camps. Yes, they did help the war effort by building machines and bullets, but they were treated unfairly. Life as an African American at that time. Blacks in America were always given the shaft. The Tuskegee Airmen were all black fighter pilots. They were some of the best fighters the world has ever seen. Most of the world don't even know about that. It's a real shame that they have went unrecognized." The Jews were condemned by the Germans to starvation, torture, violation of rights, disease, illness, and death. All human rights were taken away from them, and they were treated without dignity and respect. Today, the survivors of the concentration camps still wear the scars mentally, physically, and emotionally from living through the Holocaust. The approximation of 11 million persecuted Jewish in Germany will remain a tragic memory throughout future generations. Anne Frank and her family is a well-written, documented account of a family who were part of the Holocaust tragedy, and Otto Frank being a survivor who saw liberation before his death.